Speaker. As chair of the all-party group on vaccination, I absolutely welcome the authorisation of the Pfizer vaccine and would echo the Shadow Secretary's call for a public health campaign to encourage uptake. It will naturally take some time before it's widely available, so we all still need to stick to the rules and ensure we can test, trace, isolate and support all those carrying the virus. Last week, the Secretary of State claimed the pilot project of mass testing in Liverpool was responsible for driving down cases, despite the city having been under lockdown for much of the time. Lateral flow tests miss up to 40% of cases, so the government's plan to use them to free people from isolation are causing concern among many public health and screening experts. So when will the formal assessment of the pilot be published? And how can he justify already putting out tenders for £40 billion of contracts to extend this approach without scientific evaluation? Would it not be better to invest some of this money in getting the traditional test, trace and isolate system working properly? As 6 months on, the Serco and Citel system has still not improved, and over 40% of contacts in England are still not being informed they should be isolating. He doesn't often talk about it, but he knows it's not testing, but isolation which actually stops the spread of the virus. So if people who are carrying the virus are not isolating, no amount of mass testing will stop its spread. When I raised the King's College report last week that less than 20% of cases and only 10% of contacts were isolating, the Secretary of State claimed the government has data showing much higher compliance. So can he tell us the figures for isolation rates for those with COVID and their contacts? People won't stay off work if it means they can't feed their family. So is he concerned at reports that many requests for the isolation payment are being refused? And how will he ensure that those carrying the virus are financially supported to isolate and reduce its spread?
Thanks very much. Well, the honourable lady says that I don't talk about contact tracing very much. I was literally answering a question on contact tracing in the previous intervention, Mr. Speaker. I talk of little else. She asks also about the questions. We are publishing further data tomorrow on contact tracing, precisely in response to the question that she asked, and she'll see that the continued improvement of our contact tracing across the country is advancing further, and we'll see that in the. I can't say any more than that because the figures aren't released until tomorrow. She asked about scientific evaluation. Absolutely, we're constantly scientifically evaluating the work that's going on, especially in Liverpool. That's one of the things that the scientists who work as part of my team and who work in NHS Test and Trace and work in Public Health England, that's one of the things they do. It's a matter of constant scientific evaluation. But what we won't do is wait ages after something has finished to then do an overly long evaluation. What we do is we have to evaluate as we're going along, and we have to do that because we're constantly trying to improve the response to this pandemic, and we're constantly trying to learn. And I would urge her to support the approach of constant learning and constant improvement. We're going to have to do that through the rollout of the vaccine too. She shakes her head, but that's how you have to deal with a pandemic in practice.